How are couples making $150,000 a year more financially fragile than their parents, who made $50,000? The math makes no sense until you see the trap. Here's the truth that sounds impossible. Families with two incomes have higher bankruptcy rates than single-income families. More money, less security. Elizabeth Warren studied over 2,000 bankruptcy files and found this pattern everywhere. Dual-income families going broke despite earning significantly more than their parents ever did. We've been sold this lie: two incomes equal financial security. It's the opposite. Two incomes created financial fragility for millions of families who look successful on paper, but are one emergency away from catastrophe. Every day, both of you work, thinking you're building security. You're actually deeper in a trap that looks like success, but functions like quicksand. In this video, I'll show you the two-income trap, the brutal math that doesn't add up, and the one foundation that actually works. If both of you work but still feel broke, hit subscribe, tap that bell, and comment, two-income trap. Now let me show you why more money created less security. Number 1, $150K a year, but still broke? Here's how. Here's the scenario that makes absolutely no sense until you understand what's happening. A couple makes $150,000 a year combined. Sounds wealthy, right? Comfortable, secure, above average. Should be crushing it financially. Reality, a $3,000 car repair sends them into panic mode. Emergency fund, maybe $2,000 if they're lucky. Credit cards, carrying balances, one unexpected expense, time to figure out which bill to pay late. They're living paycheck to paycheck on an income their parents would have considered rich beyond imagination. How is this possible? How do you make $150,000 and still feel broke? Let me show you a real couple. He makes $90,000. She makes $60,000. Combined, $150,000. They should be winning. Here's what actually happens. Monthly take-home after taxes? About $8,500. Sounds like a lot until you see where it goes. Mortgage on the house they qualified for based on dual income? $3,000. Two car payments because they both need reliable transportation to their jobs? $900 total. Childcare for two kids so they can both work? $2,500. Student loans? $700. Health insurance premiums? $600. We're at $7,700 in fixed costs before they've bought a single gallon of gas or a grocery. They've got $800 left for everything else: food, utilities, gas, phone, internet, everything, on a $150,000 income. $800 of breathing room. One emergency, transmission goes out, kid breaks arm, water heater dies, and they're on a credit card. Because despite the impressive income, there's no margin, no buffer, no room for life to happen. And here's the kicker. They look at their gross income and think, we make good money, why does it feel so tight? Because gross income is a lie. It's the number that impresses people at parties and qualifies you for loans. Net income after all the costs of earning that income, that's reality. And reality is brutal. This isn't because they're bad with money. It's not because they're buying boats and designer handbags. It's because the system consumed both incomes before they ever had a chance to build actual wealth. The house, the childcare, the cars needed to get to work, the healthcare, all of it scaled to require both paychecks. Permanently. They're not living large. They're living leveraged. And leverage works great until one variable changes. Job loss, pay cut, unexpected expense, then the whole thing collapses because there's zero margin built into a system operating at 100% capacity. 60% of six-figure households live paycheck to paycheck. This isn't rare, this is normal. This is the trap. But here's where it gets really disturbing. Let me show you what that second income actually nets you. Number 2. Your second income nets $2 per hour. Do the real math. And this is where you need to sit down because the math is about to make you angry. That second income you're working 40+ hours a week for? After all the real costs? You're probably netting somewhere between $0 and $5 per hour. Maybe less, possibly negative. I know you don't want to hear this. I know it sounds impossible. But let's do the actual math on a $50,000 second income and see what you really take home. Gross income, $50,000. Congratulations, that sounds substantial. Now let's subtract reality. Federal and state taxes. You're not paying the average tax rate on this income. You're paying the marginal rate because this is income on top of the first salary. That's about 36%. Minus $18,000, you're at $32,000. Childcare for one kid so you can work. $15,000 annually, you're at $17,000. Second car payment. Insurance, gas, maintenance, because you need transportation to the job, $8,000 annually. You're at $9,000. Professional wardrobe and dry cleaning, because your job requires you to look professional, $1,500. You're at $7,500. Convenience costs. Takeout instead of cooking because you're exhausted from working. Cleaning service because there's no time. All the small premium costs that come from having zero time. $5,000 conservatively. You're at $2,500. Net annual income from $50,000 salary, after costs of earning it, $2,500. For full-time work, 50 weeks at 40 hours, 2,000 hours of your life. $2,500 divided by 2,000 hours equals $1.25 per hour. You're working for $1.25 after all costs. Less than minimum wage in 1980. And some families? The math is worse. There's this woman who did this calculation and discovered her $48,000 job netted her $1,800 annually after childcare, second car costs, taxes at marginal rate, and convenience expenses from exhaustion. 90 cents per hour. She was working full-time for less than $1 an hour while thinking she was contributing meaningfully to family finances. The brutal truth? Many second incomes are net zero. Some are actually negative when you account for every real cost. You're working for free or paying for the privilege of having a job. But here's the psychological trap. You look at the gross $50,000 and feel like you're contributing. The $1,800 net feels impossible, so you don't calculate it. You just know money is tight despite two incomes, and you can't figure out why. This is why. The second income looks good on paper, creates massive costs in reality, nets almost nothing, but locks you into a lifestyle that requires both paychecks because you're making decisions based on gross, not net. Your assignment: calculate your real hourly rate from the second income. Every cost that exists because of that job. Real taxes at the marginal rate. Real childcare. Real transportation. Real convenience costs from exhaustion. Then divide the net by the hours worked. The number will shock you. Now here's the kicker. It wasn't always this bad. Let me show you what changed. Number 3, your parents had less money, more security. Why? Because here's what makes this whole situation even more insane. Your parents' generation did better on half the income. And it's not because they were smarter or more disciplined. It's because they had something you don't. Margin. Let me show you what a typical middle-class family looked like in 1975. Dad works, makes $35,000 a year in today's dollars. Mom stays home with the kids. One income, bought a house, raised 3 kids, saved for college, took vacations, retired with a pension. You're looking at that thinking, how? You make 4 times that with 2 incomes and you're drowning. Here's how. Their fixed costs were a completely different percentage of income. Housing? 25% of that single salary. Your housing? 40% of your dual income, which means 80% of what one of you makes goes to the mortgage alone. Healthcare? Mostly covered by the employer. Minimal out-of-pocket. Your healthcare? $500 to $1,000 a month in premiums, plus deductibles that could bankrupt you. Childcare? 0, because one parent was home. Your childcare? $15,000 to $30,000 per year per kid. An entire second income is consumed just so you can both work. College? State school was affordable, working a summer job. Your college requires decades of loan payments that'll follow you to retirement. But here's the part that really mattered. They had built-in margin. An emergency labor force is held in reserve. Dad got laid off in the recession. Mom got a temporary job. Crisis averted. They survived 8 months fine until Dad found new work. Then mom quit again. That optionality, that unused capacity, was their safety net. You don't have that. Both of you are already working. No reserve capacity. One job loss, immediate catastrophe. You're operating at 100% efficiency, which is great until one thing breaks and the whole system fails. There's this couple whose grandparents lived on Dad's $40,000 salary in 1980. Mom stayed home. Dad got laid off during the recession. Mom had a job within a week, a secretary, didn't matter, brought in income. The family survived fine on her temporary income. 8 months later, Dad found a new job. Mom went back to being a full-time parent. The margin saved them. Compare that to today. Both working, both needed, one gets laid off, immediate panic because fixed costs require both paychecks. No margin, no flexibility, no safety net. Just an immediate crisis. Your parents didn't need two incomes because they built their life on one income with room to spare. You need two incomes because you built your life requiring both, with zero room for anything to go wrong. They had a margin, you have an obligation, they had a buffer, you have brittleness, and that difference, that's everything. So when did the trap spring? Here's how two incomes went from advantage to requirement. Number 4, when two incomes became required, not optional. And this is where the advantage disappeared, and the trap closed. Two incomes used to give you an edge. Then everyone got two incomes. Then the edge became the baseline. Then the baseline became the requirement. And now you can't compete without it. Here's how it happened. In 1970, most families had one income. Some had two. The two-income families? They could outbid single-income families for houses in the best school districts, pay more for the nice neighborhood, afford the bigger mortgage. Banks noticed, started lending based on dual income. You make $60,000 combined, we'll lend you $300,000. Single-income family making $40,000, they get a $150,000 mortgage max. What happened to housing prices? They rose to match what dual-income families could borrow. The house that cost $150,000 when families had one income suddenly costs $300,000 now that banks lend based on two incomes. The advantage disappeared. Two incomes used to let you buy better than your peers. Now two incomes let you buy the same as your peers. The bar moved. You're running twice as hard to stay in the same place. Fast forward to 2024. Median home price is $450,000. Requires a household income of at least $150,000 to qualify. That's two incomes mandatory, not optional, not an advantage. A requirement just to access median housing in a decent school district. There's this neighborhood where the median home was $150,000 in 1990. Affordable on a $60,000 income. 25% of the salary. Perfect. That same neighborhood today, median home $450,000, requires two incomes totaling $150,000 just to qualify for the mortgage. And it's 40% of that dual income, which means it's 80% of what one person makes. You're not competing against housing prices. You're competing against other dual income families who can all borrow massive amounts. And prices rose to consume exactly what dual income borrowing power allows. The advantage became the baseline. The baseline became mandatory, and now you're trapped. The cruel irony? The second income that was supposed to give you better housing actually just gave you the same housing at a higher total cost, because now both of you have to work to afford what one income used to buy. This is the bidding war nobody talks about. Two incomes created higher borrowing power. Higher borrowing power inflated prices. Inflated prices made two incomes mandatory. And now the advantage of two incomes is just the cost of entry. You're not getting ahead with two incomes. You're staying even. Running faster on a treadmill that speeds up to match your pace. And the second you slow down, you fall off completely. And that's how we got trapped. But the trap has a specific mechanism that keeps you stuck. Number 5. Where both paychecks actually go, because here's the mechanism that actually consumed your second income. It wasn't lifestyle creep buying boats and designer handbags. It was fixed costs expanding faster than income could keep up with. Let me show you the numbers that explain everything. 1970 to 2024. Same middle-class family. Watch what happened to costs. Housing doubled relative to income. Your parents paid 25% of the salary for the median home. You pay 40% of your dual income for the median home. Housing alone consumed most of the second income advantage. Healthcare up 600% after adjusting for inflation. Your parents, the employer covered most of it, maybe $50 a month out of pocket. You, $500 to $1,000 monthly in premiums before you see a single doctor. Plus deductibles that could hit $5,000 before insurance pays anything. Healthcare ate another huge chunk. Childcare didn't exist as a major expense in the 70s because one parent was home. Today, $11,000 to $30,000 per year per child. The average is $15,000. 2 kids? $30,000 annually. That's literally an entire second income just for childcare, so both of you can work. The second income pays for its own existence. Education. College in 1970? Affordable working summer jobs. State school tuition was $1,000 a year. Today, $30,000 a year for a state school. Requires massive loans that follow you for decades. Education costs have doubled after inflation. Added up, housing ate the advantage, healthcare ate more, childcare consumed whatever was left. Education buried you in debt. The second income didn't go to lifestyle, it went to covering cost explosions in necessary categories. Here's a real family. Combined income is $140,000. Sounds great. Monthly reality? Mortgage $3,200 based on dual income qualification. Childcare is $1,500 for 2 kids. Healthcare $800 in premiums. Student loan payment $600. Car payments are $500 because both need reliable transportation to jobs. Insurance $400. We're at $6,600 in fixed costs before a single utility bill, gallon of gas, or grocery item. That's $79,000 annually in fixed costs on $140,000 gross. After taxes, they're bringing home about $95,000. Fixed costs $79,000. Leaves $16,000 for everything else for the entire year. $1,300 a month for food, utilities, gas, phone, internet, clothing, repairs, everything life throws at you. They're not living large, they're surviving. On $140,000 income, that sounds wealthy. This is what happened. Necessary costs expanded to consume both incomes entirely. The second income didn't create luxury. It barely covered the cost increases in survival categories. Your parents needed one income because costs were reasonable. You need 2 incomes because costs exploded. And you still have less margin than they did. But here's the psychological trap that makes this even worse. Number 6. Gross versus net. Why you feel poor. Making $150,000. And this is the cognitive dissonance that destroys families. You look at your combined gross income and your brain says, we're doing well. Then you look at your bank account and reality says, we're broke. The gap between those two truths is where the trap lives. Here's what happens. You make $90,000. Your partner makes $60,000. You tell people we make $150,000 combined, and it sounds impressive. Your brain registers that as success. Your lifestyle decisions get made based on that feeling. The bank agrees. They look at that gross number and approve you for a $500,000 mortgage. You make $150,000, you can afford $4,500 a month in housing costs. The math works on paper using gross income. So you buy the house, the nice one, the one your gross income qualifies you for. You deserve it, right? You make 6 figures combined, then reality shows up. That $150,000 gross becomes $95,000 net after taxes. Then you subtract the $30,000 in annual childcare costs required so you can both work, down to $65,000. Then subtract the $9,000 in car payments and transportation costs to get to those jobs, down to $56,000. Then subtract the $10,000 in healthcare premiums and out-of-pocket costs, down to $46,000. You're living on $46,000 in actual available income. But you bought a house based on $150,000 gross. The mortgage payment is $54,000 annually. Your actual net income can't cover your house payment. Not even close. But the bank qualified you. The math worked. On gross, reality operates on the net, and the gap between gross and net is the trap that catches everyone. There's this couple approved for a $650,000 house based on $160,000 gross income. They did the real math first. After all costs, the second income created, taxes at marginal rate, childcare, commuting, convenience costs from exhaustion, their true net was $95,000. They bought a $350,000 house instead, small enough that one income covers the mortgage comfortably. Their friends thought they were crazy. You can afford way more. Sure, on gross, not on the net, not in reality. 5 years later, friends are stressed, broke, and trapped by mortgage payments that require both incomes permanently. This couple? One partner quit to start a business. No financial stress. Why? Because their fixed costs were based on net reality, not gross illusion. The system wants you to think gross. Lenders profit when you borrow based on gross. Sellers profit when you buy based on gross. Everyone makes more money when you ignore the net. But you pay the price. You spend your life working to cover obligations you took on based on numbers that don't reflect reality. Gross impresses people. Net determines survival. And most people optimize for the wrong one. And this is why the math gets truly insane. 2 incomes actually increase bankruptcy risk. Number 7. 2 incomes equals higher bankruptcy risk. Because here's the part that breaks people's brains. More income should equal more security, right? That's basic logic. Elizabeth Warren spent years studying bankruptcy files and found the opposite. Dual income families go bankrupt more often than single income families. More money, higher bankruptcy rates. How does that make any sense? Here's the equation that explains everything. Flexibility equals survival. And 2 income families operating at full capacity have zero flexibility built in. Let me show you 2 families. Both face the same crisis. One spouse loses their job. Family A, single income household. Dad works and makes $70,000. Mom's at home with the kids. Fixed costs, mortgage, cars, everything, designed to fit comfortably on that single $70,000. Dad gets laid off, crisis mode. But here's what happens. Mom gets a job within 2 weeks. Secretary, retail, doesn't matter. Brings in $40,000. Family survives just fine on her temporary income for 8 months while dad job hunts. Dad finds a new role. Mom quits, back to normal. Crisis handled. Margin saved them. Family B, dual income household, both working. He makes $80,000, she makes $50,000, total $130,000. Sounds way better than family A, right? Fixed costs, mortgage, childcare, cars, everything require both incomes. He loses his job. Immediate catastrophe. She's already working, no reserve capacity, no one left to deploy. Mortgage payment is based on dual income. Can't make it on her $50,000 alone. Burn through tiny emergency fund in 6 weeks. Credit cards, panic, bankruptcy in 4 months. Same crisis. One family had a margin and survived. The other had a higher income but zero margin and collapsed. This is the fragility equation. Operating at 100% capacity means one variable change destroys everything. No buffer, no flexibility, no plan B, just immediate failure. Single income families have unused capacity, a second person who can enter the workforce if needed. That's insurance. That's a safety net. That's the margin. Dual income families already deployed everything. Both people are working. All capacity utilized. One shock to the system. Job loss, pay cut, major expense, and there's nowhere to go. No reserves, no backup, no margin. Higher income without margin equals higher fragility. A more impressive salary with zero flexibility equals more spectacular failure when something goes wrong. And here's the brutal part. Something always goes wrong eventually. Job loss, health crisis, economic recession. The question isn't if you'll face a shock. The question is whether your system can absorb it. A single income foundation can absorb shocks. A dual income lifestyle depending on both paychecks can't. One bends, the other breaks. Bankruptcy data proves it. More money doesn't mean more security. Margin means security. And margin is what disappeared when both incomes became requirements instead of options. So here's the solution, and it requires sacrifice most people won't make. Number 8, the fix. Live on one income, build with two. And this is the answer that sounds crazy until you understand it's the only thing that actually works. Build your entire life on the lower single income. Use the second income for pure acceleration. Here's what this looks like in practice. You make $85,000. Your partner makes $65,000. Combined $150,000. Traditional approach: buy the house you qualify for based on 150. Drive the cars at 150 miles per hour. Live the lifestyle 150 supports. Result: trapped. Fragile. One job loss from disaster. One income foundation approach: build fixed costs of $85,000 only. Buy the house you can afford on $85. Drive the cars 85 supports. Design lifestyle 85 funds comfortably. The $65,000 second income doesn't touch lifestyle. Goes entirely to savings, investing, debt payoff, and wealth building. This means buying the $280,000 house instead of the $450,000 house you qualify for. Driving paid-off cars instead of new leases. Living in a good enough neighborhood instead of an impressive one. Looking poorer than your peers for 5 years. But here's what happens. That $65,000 second income invested annually at 7%, in 10 years, that's $900,000. While your peers who bought the big house have $900,000 in mortgage debt, you have $900,000 in investments, generating $60,000 a year in passive income. One partner wants to quit corporate and start a business? Do it. The foundation runs on one income. Want to go part-time? Easy. The fixed costs don't require both paychecks. There's this couple who lived on his $70,000, invested their entire $55,000 annually. 10 years later, investments worth $750,000 generate $30,000 a year in passive income. She quit corporate. He went part-time. They're living on investment income plus his part-time work. Total freedom, all because they never let fixed costs require both incomes. Your specific action plan: calculate which income is lower. Design fixed costs to fit 50 to 60% of that single income maximum. Housing 25%. Transportation is 10%. Food is 10%. Everything else fits in the remaining space. The higher income? 100% discretionary. Invest it, save it, pay off debt, build wealth. This requires saying no to the big house that the bank approves. No to the new cars you can finance. No to the lifestyle your gross income should support. For 5 years, you've looked like you're falling behind your peers. Then you're free while they're trapped. Because margin beats income. Optionality beats optimization. One income foundation with two income acceleration creates a dual income lifestyle. The ability to survive anything and resources to build everything. Here's what nobody wants to hear. You can have the big house and impressive lifestyle funded by two incomes, or you can have actual financial security. Not both. The trap is optional. Most people choose it anyway because the house is pretty and the neighbors are impressed. The wise ones build smaller, live quieter, and retire decades earlier with optionality their peers will never have. You can't have both, but you can choose which one matters. The trap is open. Your call. So there you have it. 7 truths about the two-income trap. Couples making $150,000 are more fragile than parents making $50,000 because margin disappeared. Second income nets almost nothing after real costs, with many working for under $2 per hour. 1970s one-income families had built-in margin we destroyed. Two incomes became mandatory through bidding wars that raised prices to consume dual income completely. Fixed costs expanded to eat both paychecks, especially childcare and housing. Gross income illusion makes you buy lifestyle you can't afford on net income, and two incomes increase bankruptcy risk because zero flexibility remains when both are already deployed. This week, calculate the real net of the second income after all costs. Stress test. Can you survive on one income? If no, you're trapped. Restructure fixed costs to fit a lower single income. Second income becomes pure wealth building, not lifestyle funding. If both of you work but still feel broke, smash subscribe and hit the bell. Comment two income trap and tell me your highest fixed cost. Remember, margin beats income. Live on one, build with two. Short-term sacrifice buys permanent freedom. Choose wisely.